I inherited a condemned house, rebuilt it myself, and my parents sued me for half-Reddit stories. Everyone laughed when I got the worthless inheritance, until sweat and years of work turned it into something valuable. That's when my family decided it was suddenly theirs too. Hi, I'm Matteo, 28, and 3 years ago I inherited a house so rotten the city taped a demolition notice to the front door. I rebuilt it with my bare hands. And then my parents tried to sue me for half of it. Yeah. Buckle up. The story really starts with my grandparents, Enzo and Rosa, Italian immigrants who built a life in Georgia the same way they built everything else, slowly, stubbornly, and with more heart than money. Their Victorian house in Covington was their pride. Grandpa carved the porch railings himself. Grandma's garden fed half the neighborhood. They raised my dad in that home. They died in that home. And when they passed, 6 months apart because Grandma refused to live without him, the estate got split. My sister Katerina got $95,000 in cash from the life insurance. I got the house. Everyone acted like I got the losing lottery ticket. Because the house wasn't just old, it was ruined. Condemned. The kind of place horror movie directors would scout for authenticity. Black mold crawling up the walls. A foundation crack you could lose a toddler in. Roof leaking like it had personal vendettas. Squirrels squatting in the attic like they owned the place. Wiring so ancient I'm shocked it didn't ignite out of spite. Probate valued it at $68,000, and honestly, they were being sentimental. Katerina cackled. My God, Matteo, enjoy your haunted mansion. I'll send you a postcard from the Audi dealership. My mother told her she made the smart choice. My father told me I was screwed. Nobody asked how I felt. But I looked at that collapsing house and thought about Grandpa's last good day, how he grabbed my wrist and whispered, "You're the only one who understands." He didn't leave me a burden. He left me a mission. So I moved into a tent in the backyard because the inside was a biohazard, and I started the slow, painful process of resurrecting what they built. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I knew exactly who I was. The first winter in that tent almost killed me. Not figuratively. I mean frost nipping, raccoon stalking, why is there breath inside my sleeping bag levels of misery. Every morning before work, I'd step into a house so rotten it smelled like wet mushrooms and regret. I'd scrape mold off tile with a paint scraper, rip out walls that crumbled like stale biscotti, and pray the floor wouldn't collapse under me. Then I'd shower at the gym, drive to Atlanta, and put in 9 hours as a structural engineer while pretending I didn't have squirrels for roommates. My parents had exactly one reaction to all this. Sell it to a developer, my dad said. Take whatever they offer and cut your losses. My mother added, Matteo, no woman's going to date a man who lives in a tent behind a condemned house. Katerina didn't say anything. She hadn't spoken to me directly in 2 years. She communicated through our parents like I was a foreign embassy. Meanwhile, I spent weekends learning plumbing from YouTube like a panicked apprentice. I taught myself electrical wiring using library books older than the house. I ate so much ramen I started recognizing the brand by smell. I sold my truck to pay for foundation work and bought a wheezing pickup that coughed every time I turned left. But piece by piece, the house came back. New wiring. New plumbing. New floors. A porch rebuilt exactly to Grandpa's blueprints, which I found in a water-damaged box in the attic the squirrels hadn't eaten yet. 3 years of sweat, injuries, and cursing in 2 languages. And then, finally, I could walk through the place and not fear dying of tetanus. I submitted the appraisal request. When the email came back, I stared at it long enough to think maybe I'd hallucinated it from exhaustion. $485,000. $485,000. I walked through the rooms I rebuilt with my own hands, ran my fingers over the honeygold floors, turned on lights powered by wiring I installed myself, and felt something settle deep inside me. I earned this. This was mine. So of course, that's exactly when my family showed up to take it. I pulled into my driveway after work and instantly knew something was wrong. My dad's black Cadillac was in my parking spot, like he owned the place. My mother's Lexus blocked half the driveway. And my sister's white Mercedes was parked on my lawn, tires buried in the grass like she was sowing chaos seeds. The real punch to the gut? The front door was unlocked. Correction opened. My mother still had the smart lock code I gave her 8 months earlier when I had rotator cuff surgery. She watered my plants once, complained I lived too far, then never came back, but apparently hung on to the code like a skeleton key to my life. I stepped inside and saw the full ambush. My father sitting at the head of my dining table like he was conducting a board meeting. My mother perched beside him with a wounded martyr expression she'd perfected decades ago. Katerina sprawled across my couch, scrolling Instagram with her Gucci sneakers on my cushions. She didn't even look up. My dad pointed at a chair. Sit. We're having a family discussion. I didn't sit. He launched right in. He said it was morally wrong for me to keep the entire house. He said my grandparents intended equal division of assets. He said the renovation increased the value beyond what was fair. He said I should take out a $200,000 home equity loan and give half to my sister. He had already spoken to a loan officer. He had paperwork drafted. He said this like he was announcing a community fundraiser and not demanding I indebt myself 6 figures for the sister who didn't even show up to our grandfather's funeral. And if I say no? I asked. He didn't blink. This isn't a negotiation, Matteo. This is what's happening. My mother chimed in, voice trembling. Katerina is drowning in debt. She needs help. You're her brother. Family supports each other. Katerina finally bothered to glance at me. You can't gatekeep Grandpa's house. You owe us 3 years of labor, debt, injuries, and living like a frontier homesteader. And they thought I owed them. I stared at the 3 people who had abandoned that house, and our grandparents, for 15 years, and something in me finally snapped loose. No, I said. Get out. My father stood towering, shoulders squared like he expected me to shrink. You ungrateful little. Finish it, I said. Please. Give me a reason to throw you out myself. The silence that followed? Beautiful. But the war had officially begun. Because they didn't leave in defeat. They left with a warning. You have no idea what you've started. They were right. This was the turning point. The moment the family dispute became a legal battle. And I was about to bury them in the trap they walked straight into. 4 days after I kicked them out, the universe delivered exactly what I expected. A thick, cream-colored envelope sent certified mail, return receipt requested. The kind of envelope that says, "Someone paid actual money to threaten you." Inside was a letter from a law firm my father clearly found by Googling aggressive attorneys near me at 2 a.m. It accused me of fraud during probate, manipulating the appraisal, violating an implied verbal agreement to share the house, unjust enrichment, and demanded I establish a constructive trust giving my sister 50% ownership. If I didn't comply, they would sue me, file a lien, tie my house up in litigation for years. It was a joke. A bad one. But bad jokes can still cost $50,000 in legal fees if you don't play it smart. So I called the smartest person I knew. Damien, my best friend since Georgia Tech and a contracts attorney who lived for dismantling idiots with precision and Latin legal terms. We met at a wing joint. I handed him the letter. He read it once. Then again. Then he laughed so hard a server came over to check on him. Matteo, your father just accused himself of fraud. I blinked. Explain. Damien leaned in. Your father was executor of the estate. He approved the appraisal. He certified it was accurate. If he's claiming it was fraudulent, he's admitting either incompetence or criminal misconduct. In other words, he loaded the gun, pointed it at me, pulled the trigger, and shot himself in the foot. We needed a specialist, though. Someone mean. Damien recommended Samantha, a real estate litigator in Decatur who had the emotional demeanor of a guillotine. I booked a consultation. Her office was in a restored Victorian, appropriate, and she stared at me for 90 minutes while reading every document I brought. The will. Probate filings. Renovation receipts. Before/after photos. Texts from my sister. Everything. When she finished, she folded her hands and said, "This case is a corpse, Mateo. Your father built the coffin. Your sister hammered the nails. All you need to do is bury it." She drafted an 11-page reply to their lawyer, calm, icy, devastating. It explained in bulletproof detail why their claim was baseless, how pursuing it would expose my father to criminal liability, how we were filing for declaratory judgment, and precisely how we planned to countersue if needed. She closed with a single line. "We strongly advise your clients to reconsider this course of action." Translation: Walk away or we will set your lives on fire. I slept better that night than I had in weeks. But my family? They reacted exactly how cornered animals do. They got reckless, stupid, and violent. Because 10 days later, I got a call from my neighbor that sent my stomach into freefall. "Mateo, there's a moving truck in your driveway. And your father is directing the movers. They're carrying your furniture out of your house." The war had begun. I hit 85 on a 45 miles per hour road getting home. Wade, my retired Marine neighbor with forearms like cinder blocks, was already on the sidewalk, arms crossed, jaw set, watching two movers carry my couch down the porch steps like they were shopping at IKEA. And there, standing in my doorway with a clipboard like he was managing a corporate relocation, was my father. He didn't even look at me when I walked up. Just barked, "Careful with that, don't scuff it. It's worth money." My couch. My house. My life. I stepped in front of the movers. "Put it down." One guy froze mid-step. The other looked at my dad, unsure. Dad snapped, "Keep going. We have a legal right." "You have nothing." I cut in. "You have no court order. No authority. And if you cross that sidewalk carrying my property, congratulations, you just committed burglary on camera." I pointed at my porch camera blinking red, and at the two other cameras I'd installed after the lawyer's letter. Then Wade stepped closer, just enough to make the movers reevaluate if this job was worth getting folded like a lawn chair. The first mover gently placed his end of the couch on the grass. The second followed. Then they got in their truck and left without another word. My father finally turned to me, face blotchy red, jaw clenched so tight I could hear the teeth grinding. "You are making a huge mistake," he said. "We tried handling this privately. But if you want the public fight, I will bury you." I held up my phone and tapped the screen. Footage appeared, my father ordering movers to remove furniture, admitting he had no court order. All stored in the cloud. I didn't say anything. I let him watch himself commit 3 crimes in 12 seconds. His fists tightened. His eyes went hard. Then, as if on cue, a white Mercedes screeched onto the lawn so violently it tore divots in the grass. Katerina jumped out, acrylic nails flashing, sunglasses pushing her hair back like she was preparing for a televised meltdown. She saw the couch on the grass. She saw the movers gone. She saw my father's face. And she exploded. "You manipulative little psycho! You tricked Grandpa into leaving you the house. You owe me half. You weren't even at his funeral," I said calmly. "You were too busy taking shots in Nashville." "That's not," she sputtered. "Flights were expensive." There were 12 flights. I checked. Her face contorted. "You always thought you were better than me. Better son. Better grandchild. Better everything," she screamed. I shrugged. I wasn't the one trying to steal furniture from a house I don't own. She jabbed a finger in my face. "You're going to regret this. I will destroy you." I smiled. Get off my property before I call the sheriff. She froze. I pointed at the restraining tape on the driveway. You have 10 seconds. Her mascara twitched. She spun, stormed back to her car, and peeled out, ripping another section of lawn. My father said nothing. He climbed into his Cadillac, slammed the door, and sped away. I stood there in my yard, watching the dust settle, furniture sitting crooked in the grass, hardwood floor scratched from the attempted theft. And for the first time in my life, I felt angry enough to win. Not angry enough to yell, or throw punches, or cry. Angry enough to become absolutely, terrifyingly calm. Because they'd crossed a line they couldn't ever uncross. This wasn't entitlement anymore. This was war. And they had no idea what I'd learned, what I'd dug up, or who I had on my side. But they were about to. The trap was set. The paperwork was ready. The hammer was coming down. If Part 5 was the explosion, Part 6 was the detonation. Because this was the moment my sister's entire scam started unraveling. 3 days after the attempted furniture heist, I was in Samantha's law office. The attorney Damien hooked me up with, the woman whose stare could dissolve concrete. She had 2 stacks of documents on her desk. One labeled, "Their claims." One labeled, "Your evidence." Mine was taller. She tapped the thin stack, "My family's accusations," and said, "This is nonsense. But we're not here to win. We're here to annihilate." Then she slid another folder toward me. "This," she said, "is how we bury them." Inside were the subpoenas for full financial discovery. Every bank account. Every credit card. Every loan. Every debt. Every asset. Every transfer. Every tax filing. Every marriage and divorce certificate. Everything. When you accuse someone of, fraudulently, inheriting a house, you lose the right to privacy. And Katerina had no idea how bad that was for her. The deposition was scheduled for Thursday at 9 a.m. The deposition. Katerina walked in looking like she was filming the pilot for a reality show. Hair curled. Nails sharpened. Designer bag worth more than my truck. My father walked behind her, jaw locked, wearing a suit like he was attending a funeral, maybe his own. Their lawyer looked exhausted already. I sat in the corner with a coffee, silent, watching. Samantha began politely. "Ms. Ferrante, can you confirm you are experiencing financial hardship?" "Yes," Katerina said, smoothing her hair. "I can barely afford rent. I'm drowning in debt. And you're unmarried?" The tiniest flicker of panic crossed her face. "Yes," she lied. Samantha slid a paper forward like it was a winning poker card. "Then why?" she asked mildly. "Do we have a copy of your Fulton County marriage certificate showing you married Preston Whitmore 14 months ago?" The room went still. Even the air conditioner paused. Their lawyer closed his eyes. My father looked like someone hit him with a brick. I didn't think it mattered," Katerina stammered. "It matters," Samantha said, voice like ice. "Especially since your husband receives $8,000 a month from his family trust." Now Katerina's voice cracked. "That money isn't mine. You live in his house, drive his car, and share his accounts." Silence. "Let's discuss your debt," Samantha continued. "You claimed $67,000 in credit card balances." That's true," Katerina insisted. Samantha dropped a second stack of papers. "Except your husband paid off $45,000 3 days after your wedding." Katerina's lawyer visibly shrank. "And your remaining balance," Samantha said, tapping the papers, "is $11,843, not $67,000. Katerina looked ill. My father rubbed his forehead like he was in physical pain. Samantha wasn't done. "You also failed to disclose joint accounts, monthly transfers, and trust benefits. This is perjury. Shall we call the judge, or will you be withdrawing your claims?" Their lawyer broke. "We withdraw all claims. With prejudice." Meaning they could never sue again. And, Samantha added, my client requires a signed written apology admitting wrongdoing and fraud. My father slammed his hand on the table. Absolutely. Victor, Samantha said calmly. If you refuse, I will file perjury, fraud, and attempted theft charges by the end of the day. You will lose your license, your business, possibly your freedom. He went sheet white. Then he signed. So did Katerina. The apology, the part they'll never forget. They signed their names under a statement, admitting the lawsuit was fraudulent, admitting the financial claims were lies, admitting to attempting to legally remove property, admitting they tried to defraud me of my home. It was the only time in my life I saw my father's hands shake. Katerina didn't look at me until the very end. Her eyes were furious, wet, and humiliated. This isn't over, she whispered. Oh, it is, I said. For you. She stormed out. My father lingered, refusing to look at me, jaw clenched, breathing hard like he wanted to punch a hole in the wall. But even he knew. He picked the wrong son to screw with. And the wrong house to steal. They thought withdrawing the lawsuit would be the end. They thought signing that apology would bury the whole thing quietly. They had no idea what was coming. Because Samantha's next move wasn't legal retaliation. It was protection. For me. For my house. For my future peace. The restraining order. Samantha filed all the paperwork. Every violation. Every threat. Every false claim. Every attempt to enter my property. Every instance of harassment. She bundled it with the security footage of my father directing movers. Katerina screaming obscenities on my lawn. The texts and emails. The deposition transcript. The signed admission of wrongdoing. It was airtight. The judge barely asked questions. He read the stack of documents and said in a flat voice, "This is one of the clearest cases of familial harassment I've seen. Protective order granted. 3 years. 3 years. 500-foot restriction. No visits. No texts. No phone calls. No letters. No third-party messages. No stepping within sight of my property. Violation meant immediate arrest." My father actually shouted in the courtroom. "This is ridiculous." The judge didn't even look up. One more outburst and I had contempt of court. My mother burst into tears. Katerina stared at me with pure hatred. I walked out of that courtroom lighter than I'd felt since the day I inherited the house. The collapse. Because the restraining order didn't just protect me. It exposed them. Covington is small. People talk. And all it took was one person from my father's Rotary Club overhearing the courtroom clerk say, "Restraining order? Against Victor Ferrante?" Within a week, 3 clients closed their policies. His largest commercial account defected to a competitor. His reputation, built on being a stable, respectable businessman, shattered overnight. You can't sell insurance on trust when your own son needs a restraining order against you. He tried spinning the narrative. He told people, "My son's lawyer manipulated him. He's been brainwashed by outsiders. He's mentally unstable." Nobody bought it. They'd seen the sheriff's truck outside his office when he lost his temper with an employee. They'd heard the rumors about the secret marriage cover-up. They'd seen my sister screaming in my driveway. The Ferrante name stopped meaning something. It started meaning avoid drama. My mother. She retreated from every social circle she'd ever been in. Book club. Garden club. Church brunches. Everywhere she went, whispers followed. "Isn't her son the one who filed the restraining order?" I heard they tried to steal from him. What kind of mother raises a daughter like that? She started telling people I'd been turned against the family by a manipulative woman. Again, funny, because I didn't have a girlfriend yet. Just a dog. Rosie. A rescue mutt with mismatched eyes and a broken ear who loved me more than my family ever did. Katerina's marriage detonates. Remember Preston Whitmore 4? Trust fund prints? Allowance tied to truthfulness? Prenup with fraud clauses? Well, the Whitmores do annual audits, including legal background checks. And guess what got flagged? The signed apology from the deposition. The one admitting she attempted fraud. The one admitting she lied about assets. The one saying she tried to defraud me. The prenup kicked in immediately. The consequences: no alimony, no property, no trust access, no support, no marital assets, no car, no house. She left with only what she could fit in her trunk. Preston's family tossed her out like she was radioactive. Her Instagram went dark for months. When she resurfaced? New job. Property management assistant. New apartment. 1 bedroom in Marietta. New car. A used Corolla. My father blamed me. My mother blamed me. Katerina blamed me. But the truth was simple. They built the fire. I just stopped letting it burn me. The quiet after the storm. Rosie curled up on my porch every evening. Damien came over for barbecues. Wade let me drive his fully restored Mustang. Ellen brought banana bread like clockwork. My house. Perfect. Peaceful. Mine. The neighborhood? Safe. Friendly. Stable. My life? Finally calm. Sometimes I sit on the stairs of the wraparound porch, hands resting on the railings my grandfather carved, and I think, Grandpa knew. He left me the right thing. Not the easy thing. Not the profitable thing. The thing worth fighting for. The thing worth saving. 3 months after the restraining order, after the lawsuit collapsed, after the deposition scorched the earth so thoroughly that even Katerina's lies couldn't grow back, I thought things were finally settling. And for the most part they were. Until the day my mother broke the order. Technically. Emotionally. Pathetically. But absolutely. The email that shouldn't have been sent. It wasn't a phone call. It wasn't a visit. It wasn't even from her personal account. It came from a burner Gmail with no profile picture and the name, Concerned Neighbor J. Subject line: You don't understand what you've done. It was a 3-paragraph wall of text. Rambling. Disjointed. Like she typed it crying. The highlights: Your father hasn't slept in weeks. Your sister can't afford therapy after what you did. You should be helping your family, not destroying it. Your grandparents would be disappointed in the man you've become. That last line? That was the one that snapped something in me. Because they abandoned Grandpa first. They forgot his house. Forgot his stories. Forgot him while he was still alive. They mourned the inheritance, not the man. And now they dared invoke him? It was like someone tried to rob me one last time. Not of money. Not of property. But of meaning. I forwarded the email to Samantha. She responded in under a minute. Violation. If they contact you again, we file. I didn't reply. I just stared at Rosie, asleep on the rug, tail flicking in dreams. My family had already lost everything they tried to steal from me. Now they were losing the narrative too. The visit I saw coming. 2 weeks later, Wade knocked on my door. He never knocked unless something was wrong. Mateo, he said, folding his arms like he was bracing for impact. Your parents are at the end of the street. I looked up. There they were. Standing next to my mailbox. Not crossing the 500-foot line but close enough to hurt. My mother clutching a stack of papers. My father pacing like a caged animal. Katerina leaning against her car, arms crossed, eyes swollen. What do they want? I asked. They said they'll wait until you come out, Wade said. Or until the police arrive. Whichever happens first. I stepped onto the porch. Not close. Not enough to violate anything. Just enough that they saw me. My mother lifted the papers. Shook them. You need to read this. Her voice cracked so loudly it startled birds from the trees. My father stepped toward the line, fists clenched. Katerina looked like she was unraveling in real time. But I didn't speak. I just held up my phone. Pressed one button. The police dispatcher answered on speaker. 911, what's your emergency? My family froze. This is Matteo Ferrante, I said calmly. I have a restraining order. The protected parties are gathered on my property boundary. I'd like an officer dispatched. My mother shouted. Please, Matteo, we just need to talk. That's enough, I said. We are done talking forever. I set the phone on the porch rails so they could hear the dispatcher confirm the call. You should leave, Wade told them firmly. Now. My father broke first. He grabbed my mother's arm and dragged her back toward the car. Katerina followed, shoulders shaking, head down. They were gone before the police even turned onto the street. The papers they left behind. 2 days later, I opened my mailbox to find a manila envelope. Return address? No name. Just a P.O. box in Marietta. Inside were the papers my mother tried to wave at me. Printed photos of my grandparents. My father as a child. Me at 6 years old. Katrina at 8. Birthday parties. Christmas mornings. A letter from my grandmother written years ago. And on the last page, a handwritten message from my mother. You will regret this when we are dead. I sat on the porch for a long time. Reread the letter twice. Then I placed the entire stack into a metal fire pit I'd built last spring. Lit a match. Watched the past curl into ash. Rosie rested her head on my knee while the last scraps of my mother's handwriting turned black and drifted upward. The truth I accepted that night. Some families heal. Some families break. Mine rotted long before I inherited that house. All I did was stop pretending not to smell the decay. The lesson my grandparents tried to teach. The one my parents ignored. The one my sister exploited. Family is built, not inherited. I built this house. I built this life. I built this peace. And nothing they do now, not lawsuits, not lies, not guilt letters burned in my fire pit, can take that from me. It was almost funny, in a bleak, cosmic kind of way. The more distance I put between myself and my family, the more desperate they became to claw their way back in. Not to reconnect. Not to apologize. Not to heal. But to reclaim control. Because without me to blame, without me to exploit, without me to orbit around, their world collapsed. And desperate people do stupid things. But I didn't expect this level of stupid. The Concerned Citizen complaint. It arrived on a Tuesday morning. Plain white envelope. Typed address label. No return address. Inside, a printout from the City of Covington Code Enforcement Office. Anonymous complaint. Allegations? Unsafe renovation practices. Unpermitted structural work. Illegal electrical modifications. Unauthorized demolition. Potential hazards posing danger to neighbors. It recommended an immediate inspection. And possible fines. And potential condemnation if violations were found. I actually laughed out loud. Because every permit for that house was filed, paid, and signed off. Every inspection passed. Every structural modification approved. My documentation binder was 4 inches thick. This complaint wasn't ignorance. It was sabotage. A last-ditch bureaucratic ambush. And I already knew who filed it. Because stupidity has fingerprints. The inspector who saved my morning. Inspector Holt showed up right on schedule. Gray beard. Coffee in hand. Worn boots. A man who'd seen every flavor of homeowner nonsense the city could throw at him. He walked in, looked around, raised an eyebrow. You did all this yourself? Yeah, I said. He whistled low. That's craftsmanship. Haven't seen railings like that in years. I showed him the electrical panel. He nodded. Showed him the plumbing. Approved. Foundation documentation. Approved. Load-bearing beams replaced and certified. Approved. After 45 minutes, he closed his folder. Well, Mr. Ferrante, everything here is immaculate. Whoever filed that complaint wasted both our time. Anonymous complaint, right? I asked. He snorted. Anonymous is code for family member. We see it all the time. Some folks would rather sink your house than fix their own. Then he gave me a look, half pity, half amusement. You've made enemies out of the wrong people, haven't you? No, I said. I just stopped being their victim. He paused by the door. For what it's worth, he said, your grandparents would be proud. This place is a work of art. He left. I locked the door behind him and felt something shift inside me. Not relief. Not triumph. Certainty. Confirmation of something I'd already known but never said out loud. My father and sister weren't just angry. They were unraveling. And unraveling people are dangerous. They tried one last angle. Damien called a few days later. You're not going to believe what your sister just did. Try me. She filed a petition in county court claiming your grandparents were coerced into leaving you the house. I laughed. Based on what evidence? Get this, Damien said. She claims you manipulated them emotionally. That you pressured them. That you influenced the will. She says you alienated them from the family. By visiting them? I said. Exactly. She claiming I forced Grandpa to leave me a collapsing building instead of cash? Essentially, yes. And she thinks a judge will believe that? Oh, she'll never get to a judge. He paused. This wasn't filed by a real lawyer. She did it herself. Pro se. It's filled with spelling errors. What happens now? Damien chuckled. Samantha is going to turn that petition into confetti. The echo of people who can't let go. That night I sat on the porch with Rosie's head on my lap, thinking about everything. The lawsuit. The attempted burglary. The deposition. The restraining order. The code enforcement ambush. The will challenge. My family hadn't just burned the bridge. They'd come back, poured gasoline on the ashes, and tried lighting it again just to see if maybe fire worked differently the second time. And still, they wanted something from me. Validation? Money? Attention? A scapegoat? Maybe all of it. But for the first time, sitting there with the cicadas humming and the sky turning that soft orange-pink of a Georgia evening, I felt nothing. No anger. No rage. No sadness. No guilt. Just distance. Real, unbreakable distance. The kind that can't be sued away. The kind that can't be guilted into shrinking. The kind that comes from seeing the truth over and over until there's no doubt left. My family didn't lose me. They never had me. They had access. They had control. They had a convenient target. But not me. And never again. The next blow didn't come through my mailbox, or from a lawyer, or from some anonymous city complaint. It came from someone I hadn't expected to ever hear from again. Preston Whitmore IV. Yep. My sister's ex-husband. The trust fund prince. The human haircut with a debit card. He emailed me. But unlike my family's messages, rage, guilt, threats, manipulation, his tone was clipped, professional, and ice-cold. Subject line. Request for clarification regarding prior events. Translation. I want to know what the heck happened with my divorce. I almost deleted it. But curiosity won. The meeting with a man who had no idea who he married. We met at a high-end coffee shop in Buckhead. Marble tables. Baristas with handlebar mustaches. People pretending to write novels. Preston walked in wearing a sweater that cost more than my truck. He sat down without shaking my hand. Mr. Ferrante, he said, voice clipped, I would appreciate the truth. About what? He slid a folder across the table. Inside were documents. The signed apology from my family. The deposition transcript. The judge's protective order. A highlighted paragraph from his prenup's fraud clause. My attorneys found inconsistencies. he said stiffly. I need to understand how deep the dishonesty went. I raised an eyebrow. You want me to explain why your ex-wife lied to you? Yes. Why not ask her? His jaw tightened. She says you manipulated the situation. I laughed. Preston, your ex-wife tried to commit fraud. Then she perjured herself. Then she helped her family break into my home. Then she lied to you about her financial background. He stared at me, expression neutral but eyes dead. Was any of it real? He asked. The anger behind his voice wasn't loud, but it was sharp enough to cut marble. I honestly don't know, I said. I never saw her treat anyone outside your bank account with respect. He exhaled slowly. My family believes I acted foolishly. You did. He blinked, then nodded. Yes. I suppose I did. He stood, lifted his coffee cup, then paused. I want to apologize, he said stiffly, for not seeing the truth sooner, and for whatever involvement my family may have had in her financial performance. Performance? I asked. He cleared his throat. My mother called it a curated persona. I choked back a laugh. That's one way to put it. He adjusted his sleeve cuffs, composed and tight. I have one more question, he said quietly. Do you think she married me for who I am, or what I am? It was the first time he sounded human. Preston, I said carefully. She didn't know who you were. She only knew what she could get. He closed his eyes like he already knew the answer. Then he nodded, thanked me, and walked out. The real aftershock. 2 days later, Damien called. Dude, you're gonna love this. Love what? Your sister just got hit with a civil fraud investigation. I blinked. For what? Prenup violation. False financial disclosures. Oh, and her ex's lawyers are coming after her for damages. How much? Depends on what they can prove she used his money for. Could be tens of thousands. Maybe more. I leaned back in my chair. So Katerina, who sued me claiming she deserved half my house, is now being sued herself for fraud? Yup. And she might owe him money she doesn't have? Yup. And my parents can't help her because they lost half their clients after the restraining order? Correct. And she blew through her inheritance years ago? Indeed. I exhaled slowly. For the first time in months. I didn't feel anger when I thought of my family. I didn't feel guilt. I didn't even feel satisfaction. I just felt truth. They hadn't fallen apart because of me. They had fallen apart because the structure holding them up, entitlement, manipulation, denial, finally collapsed under its own weight. I just stepped out of the blast radius in time. The letter I wasn't expecting. A week later, another envelope arrived. Not certified. Not aggressive. Handwritten. Careful script. Return address. None. Inside. A single sheet of paper. Mateo. You were right about us. You always were. I don't know how to fix any of this. I don't know if it can be fixed. But I'm sorry. Dad will never say it. She never will either. But I wanted you to hear it from me at least once. Donna. My mother. The first honest thing she'd said to me in my entire adult life. I folded the letter. Put it in a drawer. Not to forget it. Not to cherish it. Just to leave it in a place where it couldn't pull me backward. The peace that followed. I grilled steaks with Damien that weekend. Wade came over. So did Ellen, who brought banana bread like always. Rosie chased squirrels around the yard. My house, Grandpa's house, glowed in the dusk. I realized I didn't miss my family. I missed the idea of them. The version that existed only in childhood photos and nostalgic memory. But the real people? They had made their choices. And so had I. I chose peace. I chose boundaries. I chose to build something. They chose destruction. Eventually, life chooses sides for you. Spring settled over the house like a blessing. Rosie slept in the sunspot by the porch rail Grandpa carved. For once, the phone stayed silent. No lawsuits. No threats. No apologies twisted into knives. Just peace. I stood in the doorway, breathed in the clean air, and realized something simple, something freeing. I hadn't lost a family. I'd finally outgrown one.